With the 2021 NBA draft in the books, let's take a look at some of the most important questions from last Thursday. Let's start with the burning question: which team had the best draft? For me, it was very clearly the Houston Rockets. The Rockets drafted Jalen Green at 2, Alperen Şengün at 16, Usman Garuba at 23, and Josh Christopher at 24. Overall, these are a lot of great value picks for Houston. They preferred Green over Mobley, but then got two bigs who for many should have been lottery picks. Starting with Jalen Green, I love the backcourt duo with him and Kevin Porter Jr. That should feature a lot of scoring, highlight plays, and athleticism. The only worry is that both of them are still developing as playmakers, but for now, Houston just needs to keep developing them overall. Moving on to Şengün and Garuba, they complement each other very well. The biggest flaw with both of them is that they are essentially non-shooters at the NBA level for now. But I think Şengün should have the chance to score a lot of points early on, and Garuba can help conceal his defensive weaknesses. With Garuba in particular, I am very intrigued to see how he fits in offensively in the NBA, because defensively there is a clear role for him. Lastly, let's talk Josh Christopher. Christopher is someone who I have always graded as a first-round pick, so I was happy to see him go 24th this past Thursday. Of course, it is also cool to see him reunited with former teammate Jalen Green. For me, Christopher can be one of the best value picks in the 2021 draft. His shot percentages do need to come around, but I think he can be dangerous in transition from day one and will play tougher defense than expected. Then, once the percentages click, Christopher definitely has the skill set and talent to create separation and get his own shot off. Another team with an intriguing draft night was the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets went with James Bouknight at 11, Kai Jones at 19, JT Thor at 37, and Scottie Lewis at 56. With Bouknight, I've been pretty consistent over the last few months in that I am not his biggest fan. He does have potential as a 3-level scorer, but the percentages are really improvable, and I'm also not a massive believer in his handle or playmaking. However, Bouknight makes sense as a pure scorer next to LaMelo Ball. Ball can certainly put the ball in the hoop, but his biggest strength is facilitating. Lessening some of Ball's scoring workload is a good move in the long term. As for Bouknight, he will also be helped by playing alongside Ball. He will not have to be the focal point of his team, as was the case at UConn, which should hopefully allow Bouknight to better his efficiency. Then, the Hornets got two of my favorite bigs in this draft class with Kai Jones and JT Thor. Starting with Jones, he is a perfect pick-and-roll partner for LaMelo Ball. Right off the bat, he should thrive as a big that can play above the rim and run the floor hard. However, he has more potential than that. I want to see Charlotte tap into the flashes that Jones showed of ball handling and outside shooting. With his flexibility, motor, and length, Jones has the upside to be one of the best two-way talents in his class. The same idea sort of applies to Thor, really. Thor is a more comfortable shooter than Jones right now, and I honestly believe that both of them can play together, even if their long-term futures should be at the 5. Thor is another very solid athlete that can fly around the floor, make threes, and protect the rim. He is very raw still though. Lastly, Scottie Lewis also deserves a mention. He will not have as much fanfare, but I think Lewis can carve out a role for himself in the league as an energy guy that can also score in spurts. He might see a lot of time in the G League, but at 56, I thought Lewis was a good pick. Finally, I thought the Brooklyn Nets had an excellent night. The Nets walked away with Cam Thomas, Day'Ron Sharpe, Kessler Edwards, Marcus Zegarowski, and Raekwon Gray. Those are 5 NBA-worthy picks on a team that needs low-cost, effective players while it competes for a ring. Thomas was the highest of any of Brooklyn's picks on my big board, but I actually think he is the pick with the least clear path to a lot of playing time. Brooklyn already has tons of scoring, so they do not need Thomas to provide that in the near future. The problem is, that is the only thing we know for sure that he can provide right now. Still, I like the idea of Thomas and the culture that the Nets have built. The team will not allow him to monopolize their offense, as was the case at LSU, and he will have to at least participate in terms of playmaking and defense. With Day'Ron Sharpe, I like the pick as a backup big that you get late in the first round. Out of UNC, Sharp is a tough rebounder, but the thing I like the most about him is actually his passing. Sharp has a sharp eye for playmaking and great feel for the game that you do not expect from such a big man. Going forward though, the Nets will want to see him become a more well-rounded offensive player while continuing to work on his body. With Edwards, Zegarowski, and Raekwon Gray, they all have the chance to be perfectly serviceable backup players in my opinion. Maybe not in year 1, but definitely year 2 or 3 I would think. Edwards is a sturdy wing defender out of Pepperdine who is also not a total non-factor offensively. I don't buy his shooting that much, but I think he would get tons of easy shots in Brooklyn while also adding value with his movement off the ball. The Nets also get a solid backup guard in Zegarowski. He's an okay athlete that can get downhill and plays with a chip on his shoulder. But more importantly, he never shot below 42% from 3 during his 3 years in college. Zegarowski can be a spark plug off the bench and probably fill a spot whenever called upon. Finally, Gray is one of my favorite sleepers. He looks heavy and plodding, but he can get to his spots and he is just a really smart player on both ends of the floor. Gray is highly unique, but he can thrive in Brooklyn similar to the way that Bruce Brown did. In that sort of role, Gray would definitely be able to play out of the short roll, knock down easy shots, and play smart defense. Now, let's talk the biggest surprises of the night, and for me, you have to start with Josh Primo. Primo's stock had undoubtedly been rising in the weeks before the draft, but I do not think anyone pictured him going at number 12. If anything, I think the expectation was for Primo to maybe make it into the 20s. The San Antonio Spurs shocked the world by selecting the Canadian guard so early in the draft. Primo was the youngest prospect in this year's class, as he will only turn 19 in December. Still, this is a big risk. I thought Primo had a nice draft combine, where he showed some sauce off the dribble and that he could be more versatile than at Alabama though, so maybe the Spurs are onto something. If anything, I prefer to see this pick for now as a case of the Spurs doing their diligence. Primo was widely expected to be a top name in the 2022 NBA draft anyways, so accelerating that timeline could be a shrewd move. Another big surprise for me was Josh Giddey going number 6 to Oklahoma City. The Thunder drafting Giddey did not shock me at all. He fits the type of player that they look for in terms of height, creativity, and ball handling ability. I just did not expect them to be as brave as to take Giddey at 6. I like this move a lot, both for the Thunder and Giddey. The creativity with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Aleksej Pokusevski, new addition Trey Mann, and of course Giddey will be off the charts. And for Giddey personally, OKC clearly does know how to develop talent. Looking towards the future, as I have previously covered on the channel, my biggest improvement area for Giddey is undoubtedly his shot, which will need to come around in a quick way. At the end of the first round, Spanish forward Santi Aldama was one of the biggest surprises of the 2021 draft. Aldama was projected more so as a late second rounder if anything, but the Grizzlies made the leap to select him at number 30. The rumor making the rounds right now is that the Thunder were prepared to draft Aldama otherwise. Either way, the Spaniard had a massively impressive 2 seasons in the Patriot League for the Loyola Greyhounds. Aldama put up laughable numbers, 21 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 blocks per game this year, but he was a man among boys skill-wise. Still, this is the second context that Aldama has dominated. He was also the MVP of the 2019 FIBA Under-18 Championship 2 years ago, so clearly he has a lot of talent. In Aldama, the Grizzlies are getting a 6'11" guy with very good feel for the game, signs of offensive dominance, and perhaps some impressive outside shooting. I'll have a video exclusively on Aldama out in the next few weeks, so be on the lookout for that. Alright, so I pretty much said everything that I wanted to say about the prospects featured in this video, but if I had to pick 3 guys that really stand out to me, or rather that I'm really going to be keeping an eye on over the first few months of their NBA careers, well, the first one is Kai Jones, who went to Charlotte, the second one, Santi Aldama, who went to Memphis, and the third one, Josh Primo, who went to San Antonio. All 3 of those guys I thought landed in really interesting spots for different reasons, but it should be fascinating to watch their development and how they flesh out their skills now that they're in the NBA. With Primo in particular, he is the biggest surprise at number 12, so I suppose that there will be a little bit more of a spotlight on him. Speaking of which, I've received a few questions or comments asking me what's next for the channel now that the 2021 NBA draft is over. Well, to answer those questions, the first thing is that I'll be wrapping up this draft cycle with a few more videos over the next few weeks. So like I mentioned, in this video, I'll have scouting reports out on Aldama, on Primo, on Garuba as well. And then hopefully I will have some Summer League content out once that gets underway. So look out for that either on here or on my Twitter page. The link is in the bio at wilkoMCV. And then after that, well, I'll be moving on to the 2022 NBA draft, which promises to be just as exciting as 2021. As always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like. Make sure to leave a comment, tell me what you thought of this draft and if you have any questions for me. And if you enjoyed the video, if you enjoyed the channel, if you want to see more stuff like this, make sure to subscribe. Take care, and I'll see you guys next time.